Good morning to everyone, wherever you are in the world. I'm Dr. Stuart Cantor. I've had a number of people ask me to post the seminar that I delivered for Pharmaceutics 2020 from my bedroom, and now here it is, re-recorded with my new Fi-Fi microphone. Looks like I did delete the previous video that I posted. However, I will have to just invite people to resubscribe because it looked like it deleted all of my content as well, unfortunately. Today I will talk about the use of cannabis, hemp, and terpenes in food, beverage, cosmetic, and pharma products. An intro about me. I have a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. It was the first school in the country to offer a master's degree program in medical science and therapeutics in 2019. Their first class had 500 applicants with 50 accepted. The next class had 250 students enrolled, which is great. I was also invited to speak to their first and second year students via Zoom last year, and I've been invited also to speak to students at CSC, which is the Cleveland School of Cannabis, in March. I have over 30 years of work and consulting experience in the food, nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, and cannabis industries, and I'm also a scientific expert witness. I'm a product formulator with a background in manufacturing process development, and I have developed many products from R&D scale to either clinical or commercial scale. I got into the cannabis industry unexpectedly. I was never a user or smoker. I was only recently reacquainted with cannabis when I was consulting in San Fran and my roomie was smoking his bong 4 to 5 hours a day. It seemed like I could smell cannabis everywhere in sunny Cali. I hella love the West Coast. I've been there all over the West Coast about 20 times. I was working as principal scientist at a skincare contract manufacturer for 2 years, and then I lost my job due to company bankruptcy. Several months later, the company imploded, laying off 500 plus workers in North Carolina and Florida. 3 months later, several in-person interviews later, and I had no job offers. My tiny unemployment weekly money was running out, and I was driving home in early October 2018. I got a call from a Colorado CEO asking me if I could develop cannabis products. I said, sure. I developed everything else in my R&D career. At my last job, I used to say that with me, R&D is R and done. So I have worked on a whole wide range of products. So for this CEO, I started developing drink mixes, capsules, tablets. I used his encapsulated cannabis called Nanobadiol. It was a powder, and I used that to develop the products in my kitchen. At one time, I was making 40 batches of THC gummies for him too, to refine the process and determine what the optimum formulation was going to be. And that was a really fun experience. During 2019, I survived on my own as a consultant, which was an incredible experience for me to see And I was working with 8 other companies. I either developed a CBD nanoemulsion in my kitchen, and when I tested it, the particle size was 56 nanometers, which was awesome. One of the companies I consulted for was in Frederick, Maryland, actually about 2 miles from where I was senior R&D manager 20 years earlier on English Muffin Way, which was called that because it's down the street from Thomas's Bakery. I tell everyone that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't work hard on English Muffin Way. I asked the CEO of the Maryland company in 2019 to make me full-time. And then in December they did. And I moved back to Maryland in January of 2020. Then the global COVID crisis hit, and the CEO made me an essential employee. I've been laid off 3 times before, but with the global pandemic, I kept my job. I continued to develop a range of food and cosmetic products for Groovy Waves, which is the company in Maryland. But last year, I only used CBD extract. In November 2020, the MD told me that they were granted a cannabis processing license by MMCC, which is the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission, and then they also purchased a building which would later service my factory once it was redesigned. I was really happy because I loved the cannabis plant and I wanted to work with both CBD and THC, and now I could. I originally thought that I would never be able to work with THC on the East Coast, but my dream has come true. At Groovy Waves, I wrote about 50 SOPs for GMP certification and also 40 something SOPs for the factory operation to give to MMCC for their pre-audit. I've received more joy and fulfillment in cannabis and success in 2+ years than ever before in my career. I got multiple speaking engagements, published a few articles for the US and European trade magazines, and connected with over 8,000 other professionals, including plenty in cannabis, on LinkedIn. And I will be receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award in Vegas. I was supposed to travel in December, but it's really kind of funny because now it's postponed due to COVID. I won't be traveling till 4/20 of 2021. All right, so that's a little bit of background about me. Now it's time to move on to my seminar. This is a nice overview of the wonderful world of cannabis. There's an awful lot of chemistry in cannabis. That's one of the several reasons why I love the plant. Because the cannabis plant is a bioaccumulator and can absorb toxins from the soil, it's important to test for heavy metals, pesticide residues, and one of the companies that we work with, Qualis, does test the medical cannabis for the farms in Maryland, and they issue a C of A. So actually they test for 45 pesticide residues. Also residual solvents, mycotoxins, bacteria, and of course the potency. We want to ensure that we have the highest quality of cannabis possible before we make our products. Besides the THC and CBD, there are also over 10 minor cannabinoids and over 100 terpenes. If you search for scientific research on PubMed.com and type in THC or CBD or their actual names, you'll see between 8 to 10,000 hits. This cartoon symbolizes the struggle that consumers have with Big Pharma. Consumers want the right to choose whether to take cannabis for whatever health condition we're experiencing, whether that's CBD, THC, or some combination of the two. We don't want to only have the choice to choose between toxic drugs or opioids that are just given to us by default. It's been that way for cannabis for a long time, as we know, but no longer. Cannabis can be used for pain management, and there has been some evidence with people's personal stories of themselves even being able to be weaned off opioids thanks to cannabis therapies. There's been a whole lot of research with evaluating the use of cannabis and its properties for a variety of conditions such as inflammation, insomnia, anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD, cancer, and other ailments. CBD is not addictive and can even be taken in large doses, anywhere from 10 to over 500 milligrams, with no adverse effects. Even I've been taking regularly 100, 200, 300, 400 milligrams of CBD each evening, and it feels good, I'll tell you that. Here's another funny meme. People with legitimate health issues shouldn't be forced to grow their own cannabis in secret like they are criminals to treat their own cancer. And cannabis use goes back decades, even in the U.S., for things like cancer. Even FDA approved the first drug to treat nausea and cancer chemotherapy called Marinol. That was approved in 1985. Now I'll go over my outline. I'll start with Botany 101, Chemistry, Pharmacokinetics, PK, the ECS system, market size, legal issues. There's still legal uncertainty regarding the banking as well as FDA's final regulatory position on how cannabis can be allowed in food and cosmetic products. And I will talk about some of the different products, also including edibles. With the cannabis plant, we have the THC and CBD present in the trichomes. However, it's only the THC which is psychoactive. Hemp seed oil is a good source of polyunsaturated fatty acids and essential fatty acids. The oil has about a 3-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s, which is considered in the optimal range. We can use either cannabis extract or hemp seed oil in a variety of edibles such as gummies, tinctures, capsules, and also in personal care products such as bath bombs or cosmetic products. We have three main species of the cannabis plant. There is cannabis sativa, which is the source of industrial hemp. It is federally legal to ship that across state lines provided that the Certificate of Analysis, or C of A, shows that the THC content in the US is less than 0.3% or 0.2% in Europe or different in other countries. There's also the indica species and the ruderalis species, which is a low THC strain. People going into dispensaries can have a preference for either a sativa or indica, or some combination of both. It just depends on what condition they're interested in treating. It's also important to point out that hemp seeds do not contain any CBD or psychoactive compounds. The psychoactive THC is only present in the trichomes. The sativa and indica plants are also different in appearance. The sativa is taller with narrow leaves and better suited to warmer climates, while the indica is the opposite. It's time for some basic terminology. Full spectrum extract will contain the minor cannabinoids and terpenes, and it undergoes less processing. I'm a firm believer in whole plant medicine and believe that cannabinoids and terpenes work synergistically together to give their beneficial therapeutic effects. The full spectrum extract must contain less than 0.3% THC in order to cross state lines, so it's not considered hot. Broad spectrum. Some cannabinoids and terpenes are lost or reduced with more heat processing. This is done in order to remove the THC. When the THC is removed, the terpenes also are greatly decreased. The terpenes volatilize off at much lower temperatures than the cannabinoids. However, the benefit is that the THC level is essentially zero, or ND, or not detectable. This is important for some people still concerned with their jobs about random drug testing at work. Industrial hemp is cannabis sativa with less than 0.3% THC. It's grown either as a fiber or a seed crop. An isolate is a high purity extract, greater than 99% of THC or CBD, with all the plant material removed. Currently, there's no standards of identity for full or broad spectrum, and the plant composition can vary between strains, species, and growing conditions. I currently serve on an ASTM committee, and we have been working to develop standard definitions, policies, and procedures for various activities within the cannabis industry. I'll discuss the basic chemistry of the cannabinoids. There are over 100 types of cannabinoids in the plant with more than 10 minor cannabinoids. There are the synthetic THC drugs, for example, like Marinol, which was FDA approved way back in 1985. The Delta 8 THC is not as potent as the Delta 9. There are also acid forms of both THC and CBD named THCA and CBDA. These are not potent unless the cannabis flower is given a heat treatment to convert the acid forms into the CBD and THC, respectively. There's two other compounds called THCP and CBDP. They were discovered in January 2020, and they were found to be more than 20% potent than their THC and CBD parents. I think I found that on PubMed, I believe. The main molecules of THC and CBD have a similar chemical structure and relatively high boiling points when compared to the terpenes. They both have the same hydrocarbon tails, and the differences are noted in red here. THC is psychoactive and a DEA Schedule I drug, while CBD modulates the effects of the THC, and either or both have been used in treating inflammation, depression, PTSD, chronic pain, anxiety, cancer, insomnia, and seizures, etc. A purified CBD drug for seizures, Epidiolex, was approved by FDA in 2018. If you are new to cannabis, especially with THC, then you need to start out slow. Just take between 2 to 5 milligram and see how you react before you increase your dose. Personally, I don't like to have more than 10 milligram of THC, and I only take it with food because I've had some, reactions where it can cause low blood pressure, dizziness, and nausea, and we all want to have the good reactions, right? The munchies and giggling and things like that. We don't want to have any of the bad side effects. CBD, on the other hand, can be consumed in far greater quantities. I started taking only 15 milligrams of CBD for quite some time, but recently I've regularly been taking 200, 300, 450 milligrams a day with no bad side effects. CBD is well tolerated and has a proven safety profile with no potential for abuse. Even WHO, the World Health Organization, said that in 2018. The only thing I noticed taking THC too close to bedtime is that it causes dry mouth, and that can cause broken sleep, so it's best for me to take cannabis products earlier in the evening. And it's also important to note that edibles can give you a delayed reaction between 30 minutes or up to 2 hours, depending upon the amount, type of food ingested, and your age. I've had some not so pleasant reactions with THC a few times, so I definitely respect it because it's powerful. Let's briefly discuss the pharmacokinetics of cannabinoids. Both THC and CBD are highly lipophilic, with low oral bioavailability, only between 4 to 20%. Cannabinoids are damaged in the stomach and have extensive first-pass metabolism in the liver. The THC can be oxidized in the stomach, acid, to CBN, which is not as potent. The ways to improve efficacy can be to use a transdermal skin patch, which will avoid first-pass metabolism, or prepare an oil and water emulsion and nanosize the oil droplets down so that the product can be absorbed faster by your body. You can build up tolerance with THC, so a person who smokes or vapes regularly will need to have a higher dose of THC to get the same effect. With smoking or vaping, the THC goes in the bloodstream right away. However, with edibles, there's a delayed reaction. The THCA, which is the acid form of the THC, can remain in the body for several days. The half-life of THC or CBD depends upon the frequency of use. For CBD, it can be 1 to 2 days. THC can last in the body for up to 1 to 3 days for an infrequent user, or 5 to 13 days for a heavy user. There are thousands of known terpenes, with over 200 known in the cannabis plant. Terpenes actually are a defense mechanism used by the plant against insects. Terpenes are also lipophilic compounds. That means they're not water soluble. Terpenes can be extracted from cannabis via several methods: by steam distillation, fractional distillation, or supercritical carbon dioxide. The terpene profile is unique to the strains. Recently, edible manufacturers have added back certain terpenes to their products for a certain characteristic effect and to establish their market niche. I believe that the terpenes act synergistically with the cannabinoids and other compounds, a term known as whole plant medicine, or the entourage effect, and some terpenes have been shown to provide different therapeutic benefits, and you'll see that on the next slide. All of the terpenes have different volatilization temperatures and are used in treating different conditions. I'm sure we're all familiar with alpha-pinene. That's the pine scent found in pine sol for cleaning. Myrcene is the most abundant terpene, also present in mangoes. Limonene is found in citrus. Beta-caryophyllene is in black pepper. Linalool is found in lavender, and humulene, which is from hops, can also have anti-inflammatory properties. I published an article on terpenes in 2019. My cannabis publications are posted both on my LinkedIn profile and also on my YouTube cannabis channel. Here is a drawing of the ECS system located throughout the body. The ECS system is said to regulate homeostasis and help to keep your body in balance. The entourage effect is a term coined in 1998 and describes whole plant medicine that I mentioned before. The cannabinoids and terpenes all work synergistically together to produce their beneficial therapeutic effects. CBD helps modulate the psychoactive effects of the THC. In my opinion, a full-spectrum extract is more efficacious overall and could be used at a lower dose than a cannabis isolate because of its greater efficacy. As we all know, the cannabis market has been exploding globally with a huge variety of food and cosmetic products. The cannabis industry is projected to grow from $12 billion in 2018 to $74 billion in 2027. That's a 600% growth rate. All of the major players in food and pharma are working behind the scenes to develop their own product lines or product line extensions. While the initial product offerings were gummies and chocolates, now there are nano-sized waters, wines, beers, teas, and other unique product offerings. You can see here, even going back to 2015, the legal marijuana sales eclipse all other products. Shocking that marijuana even beats out Oreos, I know. Even popular brands like Dasani Water are only one-third the sales of cannabis at $1 billion. This research came from Forbes. The state's regulations of cannabis are still in flux. I just recently replaced my US map with this one. I thought it was better. And again, there's different types of regulations. There's recreational, there's medicinal, and there also are bills in the different states being passed or being discussed on the decriminalization of cannabis and expungement of previous cannabis possession arrests. Those are usually handled by an organization called NORML, N-O-R-M-L, and potentially the Biden administration may act to legalize cannabis on a federal level. We'll have to wait and see. Several states prohibit the use of any cannabis, kind of surprising even today. Currently, the FDA is allowing the states to police their own jurisdictions. Different states have different rules, so check on whatever the rules are in your state before consuming any cannabis. As of January 2021, marijuana is legal for adults 21 and over to possess and use in 11 states and also in Washington, D.C. Medical marijuana is legal in 34 states. New Jersey, Arizona, Montana, and South Dakota voted to legalize recreational marijuana in November's elections. Canada voted to legalize cannabis for medicinal and recreational use back in October of 2018. There have been 4 FDA approvals for synthetic THC products and their generics, most for nausea, for chemo, and pain. These are Marinol, first approved by the FDA way back in the dark ages of 1985, and dronabinol in 2016, and Epidiolex, which is synthetic CBD, for childhood seizures in 2018. Now I'll discuss the regulatory and labeling issues. Every state has its own labeling requirements for cannabis products with its own approved THC warning logo. Each piece or serving of a chocolate bar and each tablet in a bottle for medicinal use must bear the THC warning logo for that state, alerting consumers that that unit product contains THC. These THC medical products are not allowed to be sold, only allowed to be sold within the state and not elsewhere. On a package, the total amounts of CBD and THC per serving and the total amount in the package must be disclosed. THC is still considered illegal at the federal level to Schedule I drug, and FDA has stated that it does not believe that the THC or cannabis in general are grass or generally recognized as safe, and FDA said that they never formally granted permission to put CBD or THC into food or dietary supplement products. If a company makes claims that their cannabis products will cure COVID or cancer, even if some published research points to that, then they'll likely receive a warning letter. For non-medical grade products, FDA would prefer to see hemp extract on the product's label over CBD because there's already a CBD product as a drug marketed, which is the Epidiolex. Companies are putting this FDA disclaimer on their products. It's the same as what appears on dietary supplement products regulated under DSHEA, Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, which was passed in 1994. However, cannabis products are not regulated under DSHEA at this time because FDA does not consider cannabis as a food or dietary supplement. I know it's confusing. It was confusing for me as well. If your company makes claims, it's best to say that your product can help, quote, support, unquote, healthy sleep or help support a healthy mood. Note that the use of the word support is used, and I'm not making any drug-like claims that I'm curing any disease. The verbiage on some warnings, like this one taken from California's regulations, can say this: the intoxicating effects of cannabis products may be delayed for up to 2 hours, which is true. If you smoke cannabis, the effects are rapid, but if you consume edibles, yes, there is a time delay which can vary with different people. There's also a warning for pregnant women. All packages of cannabis containing foods, edibles, or cosmetics are required to inform consumers on the contents. I have seen titles of supplement facts or drug facts used for skin products, or a label affixed to the package listing the ingredients and the cannabinoids present in the food products. FDA has a guidance on their website about what it expects to see on a product's label, including things like the net contents and product information, etc. I'll talk a little bit about food science. On the right is a picture of canna butter. It's butter, or you can use oil, that can be infused with cannabis and used in cooking and baking. Cannabinoids and terpenes are nonpolar lipophilic molecules. Emulsifiers can be used to help these lipophilic molecules dissolve or disperse into water when making an oil and water emulsion. A common emulsifier used in the food industry, polysorbate 80 or tween 80 or poly 80, is synthetic. Koalaja extract is a natural emulsifier derived from the soap bark tree, an evergreen tree which grows in Chile. However, it has a bad, astringent, bitter, and soapy taste, and it's not as effective as poly 80 in making a stable emulsion. It may work in a skincare product, but only R&D can determine that when compared against a synthetic emulsifier. Homogeneous blending is critical to product quality and consistency. Certain types of equipment are better than others. It depends upon your application. Some terpenes can give off flavors in a food product. Make sure you check the C of A so you know the cannabis levels that are in your extract. This is a chart showing the HLB scale, or hydrophilic lipophilic balance, It's used to describe which emulsifiers would be used for either oil and water or water and oil emulsions. With an oil and water emulsion, oil is the dispersed phase added into water, which is the continuous or bulk phase. Milk is an example of an oil and water emulsion, while butter is a water and oil emulsion. Below 9 on the HLB scale describes emulsifiers or surfactants used in water and oil products. Things like antifoam. They're going to be more hydrophobic and more greasy because of a larger content of the oil. Above an HLB value of 9 describes emulsifiers or surfactants used for oil and water emulsions, and these would be hydrophilic. As we go higher on the HLB scale, we see detergents with an HLB between 13 and 15, and solubilizing agents between 15 and 18 HLB. A product using emulsifiers that are water dispersible but not truly water soluble can have the oil droplets coalescing and separating out over time. The type of emulsifiers you choose are important. An optimum stable emulsion is the result of both a good product formulation, with proper emulsifiers and levels chosen, and also using the proper equipment, which will deliver the requisite energy into the system to decrease the oil droplet size. Each oil also, or wax, has its own HLB value. When making a food product or skin cream, the total HLB of all ingredients in the oil phase must be calculated based on the relative percentages in the oil phase. Once the total HLB value of the oil phase is determined, it should be matched with emulsifiers, which are also calculated by relative percentages to be within plus or minus 1 HLB unit of the oil phase. A more stable emulsion can be obtained by using emulsifiers with higher and lower HLB values together. Calculating these HLB values is no guarantee of emulsion success over time. It's just a tool. Stability studies should still be done to determine the best emulsifiers and optimum levels to use in your product. There are two main ways to produce micro or clear nano emulsions, and I use both machines in my kitchen when I was consulting. On the upper left side are different sizes of ultrasonic horns used to create a nanoemulsion by emitting high-frequency sound waves to break apart the oil droplets. On the right side is the heart of a traditional high-pressure homogenizer. This uses a rotor stator head to shear and break apart the oil droplets into smaller sizes. This can limit their coalescence and separation ability over time, but stability studies still must be done to confirm that a stable emulsion has been obtained. A high-pressure homogenizer can go all the way up to 25,000 psi, so it's pretty powerful. B International is the high-pressure homogenizer equipment that I rented. On the left is the R&D model I used, and on the right is the larger commercial model. This equipment breaks apart the oil droplets in three ways. Via cavitation, where the oil droplets implode and collapse, shear, and impact. I was surprised that even though I did multiple passes of my cloudy oil and water emulsion at 20,000 psi, and I made other adjustments, that it was only the ultrasonication which gave me a clear oil and water emulsion. That means that when I saw that, I knew it was going to be in the nano size range, and I'll show you pictures of what I mean in a few minutes. Here are pictures of rotovaps used for solvent extraction of cannabis. On the left is the R&D model using about 500 grams, and on the right is a commercial model using 50 liters. When I was using a rotovap in the lab, I remember that my boss told me to take it down to 6 millibar, which he said was the atmospheric pressure on Mars. He was big into astronomy and had planet pictures in his office. The Colorado CEO that I was consulting with had a 50-liter rotovap in his cannabis factory, and I was able to see that working when I visited him. Okay, so this is a nice cartoon on the right to show what I mean relating HLB values, water dispersibility, and emulsion appearance. There are hundreds of emulsifiers, and they can be cationic, anionic, or neutral. An emulsifier has a hydrophilic head and a long hydrophobic tail, and both of these parts are able to join both the water and the oil phases. An emulsion with emulsifiers in oil phase between 6 to 8 will yield a milky opaque dispersion. However, As we increase the HLB value and assuming the proper levels and type of emulsifier were chosen, we can obtain a translucent solution and HLB values between 13 to 15, and clear solutions with HLB values over 13, as it's shown on the left. Thus, if we are putting energy into a system and we see our emulsion go from opaque to clear, then we know we have an indication that the oil droplet size must be in the nanosize range, and this is due to the formation of micelles. On the right side, oil floats on top of the water because it's less dense. A surfactant such as SLS, or sodium lauryl sulfate, mentioned here, which is common in shampoos for its foaming ability, orients itself at the oil-water interface, with the blue hydrophobic heads pointed down into the bulk water and the nonpolar tails orienting themselves into the oil phase. If the correct level of the emulsifier or emulsifiers are chosen, then micelles are thermodynamically favored to form. They are very small, and when they refract light, the oil and water emulsion will appear clear or translucent as the micelles are within the nanosize range. The critical micelle concentration is unique for each surfactant. A surfactant or emulsifier lowers the interfacial tension between the oil and water phases, as these oil and water phases have different density, with the oil phase having a lower density, and enables the two different phases to interdisperse or mix together uniformly without separating out. When the level of surfactants is above the CMC, it will be if you're using between 10 to 30% by weight of the total level of oil. The emulsifiers will first line up at the air-water interface. As more energy is put into the system, the formation of micelles is thermodynamically favored, meaning it's going to be into a lower energy state. The oil droplets are embedded into the center, surrounded by the hydrophobic fatty acid tails, with their polar heads aligned with the bulk water. The micelles are very small, about 2 to 20 nanometers, so the oil and water emulsion will start to appear translucent as the ideal number of passes is reached during homogenization. The micelle formation also helps prevent the oil from coalescing together over time and gives improved stability because the oil is trapped inside the micelles. This is a more descriptive illustration of what I'm talking about. It's another schematic illustration showing that what happens as the CMC, or critical micelle concentration, is reached. The emulsifiers first line up at the air-water interface on the right, with their hydrophilic heads oriented into the bulk water. As the surface is saturated with emulsifier, the micelles begin to then form, entrapping the oil droplets inside. Microemulsions can form spontaneously. However, nanoemulsions require energy input into the system. Here's a picture of my cannabis oil and water emulsions after multiple passes through the ultrasonicator. It was the ultrasonicator that delivered this level of translucency, whereas the high-pressure homogenizer just didn't. Now, the drawback of using the ultrasonication was, on the R&D scale, there was some plastic Tygon tubing. Sometimes it would leak, and also the ultrasonic horn can shed some black particles into the solution, so I had to use a sterile 0.2 micron filter to filter them out. So you can see here clearly that the emulsion on the left side, number 1, starts out opaque, and with each successive pass, it makes the solution more translucent. In vials 4 to 5, you can clearly read the print through the solution. Once I saw that, I knew that micelles had formed. My oil droplet size must be in the nanosize range. I sent the samples out to be tested in a lab, and they found that my emulsion particle size got down to 56 nanometers, which was really exciting. Nanoemulsions are more bioavailable and can have quicker absorption in the body due to the small size of the oil droplets. It's important to confirm that the oil droplet size is truly stable over time, so you still need to do stability studies. There are different ways that an oil and water emulsion can separate via gravity, coalescence, flocculation, or Oswald ripening, where smaller oil droplets can become larger over time. A more thermodynamically stable system is a lower energy system where the surface to area ratio is minimized. There are 3 main classifications of emulsions into conventional, microemulsions, and nanoemulsions. The differences lie in the oil droplet size, energy input, and long-term stability. A conventional emulsion has the largest oil droplet size of greater than 1 micron. Several passes will be required through the equipment to get the oil droplet size down to, say, 0.5 micron or 500 nanometers. That would be more stable. Microemulsions or nanoemulsions are said to have the same size range of 20 to 200 nanometers. However, while microemulsions form spontaneously even without energy input and are thermodynamically stable, means they have low energy, nanoemulsions require energy input and are kinetically stable, which means that the oil droplets can slowly coalesce or separate over time if the formulation is not selected well. Nanoemulsions typically also require higher levels of emulsifiers. Here's a picture of your skin. The pH of healthy skin is slightly acidic at a pH between 5.5 to 6. The active in a skin cream, say an oil and water emulsion, or a skin balm, which is non-aqueous, meaning there's no water present, still needs to penetrate through the outer layer of the skin called the stratum corneum, which is right here. Different skin penetration enhancers, such as IPM, isopropyl palmitate, IPM isopropyl myristate, IPP isopropyl palmitate, or even all-natural olive or sugarcane-derived squalane oil can be used between 4 to 8% to help the active go through the skin. Skin and body products come in a variety of types: creams, sprays, gels, ointments, and balms or salves. Each of these is complex products containing several oils and waxes, depending upon what viscosity you desire. Skin penetration enhancers, several emulsifiers, preservatives, and fragrances. Personal care products can contain between 20 to 40 different ingredients. The emulsifiers can be amphoteric, which means they have both plus and minus charges, like lecithin or phosphatidylcholine; amphiphilic, which have both hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts; cationic, anionic, and neutral. In fact, there's hundreds of different emulsifiers or surfactants with varying HLB levels. It's been advised that for more stable emulsions, emulsifiers with both higher and lower HLB values should be used. There are the polysorbates or tweens, 20 and 80, though these are not natural. There's also spans, which are below HLB of 9, so that means they're for water and oil emulsions. There is Qualaja, which is natural, sodium stearoyl lactylate, or SSL, which has HLB of 17, so it's heading toward good water dispersibility. Other emulsifier combinations, such as cetearyl alcohol and cetarith 20, made by some companies, have an HLB similar to polysorbate 80, or about 15. There are viscosifiers in polymers, starch, xanthan gum, carbomers, which are cross-linked alkyl polymers, where you have to adjust the pH to 4.5 to 5 to make them clear. They can form clear gels. Dimethicone and PEGs. You have the emollients, which give a silky feel on the skin, such as shea or cocoa butter, lanolin, petrolatum, and different plant oils. We have the skin penetrants, IPP, IPM, sodium pyroglutamate, PCA, and squalane oil. For preservatives, we have sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, phenoxyethanol, ethyl hexylglycerin. All skin creams must have some type of preservative, or more than one, because of their higher water levels and because you're regularly putting your hands into them. So they need to be protected from, have preservatives to protect against bacterial growth. And lastly, we can have fragrances, colors, vitamins, minerals. Other ingredients can be added. This slide shows that squalane oil can improve CBD penetration through the skin by 14 to 40 times, even more than using hemp seed or jojoba oil. I'll point out that squalene oil is from shark liver. I'm sure you've seen that in personal care products, but this is squalane with an A. It's more stable because there's no unsaturated double bond in it. And it's also all natural. In this case, this company's supplier's squalane oil is from sugarcane, but it can also be derived all natural from olives. With medical grade cannabis flower or extracts, it's important to know your supply chain. Has the quality been tested and is there a C of A available listing important parameters such as potency, heavy metals, pesticide residues, residual solvents, mycotoxins, and bacteria? And do all parameters meet acceptance criteria for your facility? Cannabis raw materials and finished products must also have their own specifications. Be tested at your facility to confirm the quality and have the C of A's on record. It is also advisable to conduct audits of the farm and also your suppliers. Signing quality agreements with suppliers is a requirement of GMP certification. Cannabis can be put into anything, edible or topical. Mood 33 sparkling beverages was covered in my 2019 terpenes article. There are 3 varieties called Joy, Passion, and Calm, each having different types of terpenes added back in. Cannabis can also be put into beer and teas. We can also put cannabis into gummies, sparkling waters, spirits, wine, and nutrition bars. We can have different flavors of chocolates. I tried Kiva when I got some from a San Diego dispensary. This is medical grade cannabis and has THC 10 milligram per scored piece or 100 milligrams of THC per bar. We can have coated pillow chewing gums like Wrigley's Eclipse in different flavors. This happens to be the Joy Gum brand. Other dosage forms of cannabis include transdermal patches, soft gels, a syringe, I got at one of the CBD expos, skin creams and balms, and tinctures, either oil-based or alcohol-based. Now I'll talk briefly about tablets and capsules. My PhD was in industrial pharmacy, specializing in formulation and manufacturing of tablets, capsules, and coatings, and my research focused on the development of control-release dosage forms. When I consulted in pharma, I oversaw the operation of batches of 130,000 coated tablets. I'd go up to Patheon in Canada for a week, and 20,000 capsules down in North Carolina. These were done at 2 separate contract manufacturers for phase 2 clinical trials. Tablets and capsules use similar excipients in their manufacturing, however the levels can differ. There is, of course, the drug. It can be low, like 10 to 20 microgram, or high dose. And the excipients can also vary depending upon the process that you're using, either direct compression or wet or dry granulation used to improve the hydrophilicity or the flow properties. There are fillers like MCC, microcrystalline cellulose, which is a very compressible material used to improve tablet hardness. You can have starch, lactose, dicalcium phosphate called Dical, polymer binders such as PVP or HPMC, etc., which are used in the granulations. Disintegrants are required because they help the tablet or capsule break apart. Glidants improve the powder flow. Lubricants like magnesium stearate are necessary to coat the equipment to reduce friction and heat and helps extend the equipment life. And then we have other ingredients such as colors or flavors, etc. For low-dose actives, such as 10 to 20 microgram, it's recommended to use geometric dilution to ensure the content uniformity. This means pre-blending the active with successive approximately equal quantities of excipient diluents until all the excipient is used up. Other tips include sieving magnesium stearate through a number 30. Usage level varies between 0.1 to 2% of the mag stearate. The level should be optimized. Maybe add less and blend it longer. Mag stearate is hydrophobic and can cause softer tablets and longer dissolution times if the usage level is too high or the blending time is too long. And that can cause the tablet to fail its USP monograph specifications. Overblending negatively affects capsule plug formation and dissolution as well. Dical should be kept to a use level below 15% as it's abrasive and can wear down the equipment. You should control the fines. You should be no more than 20% fines in the blend, and check for blend segregation before you scale up. You should also sieve to eliminate particles that are larger than 20 mesh or 841 microns. Part of my PhD research was done at FDA. These are tablets composed of coated drug beads and placebo cushioning beads, and these pictures are taken using near-infrared NIR spectroscopy and chemical imaging. Several blends were prepared, with some deliberately done to induce blend segregation, such as this with cimetidine 20% drug beads shown in blue and 80% placebo beads. So I did 20-80, 50-50, and 80-20. The tablets were taken while the press was running. You can see that the initial tablets had an average of 9% more drug beads, 29%, while at the end of the run, the drug level at 19% was closer to what was originally supposed to be in there by weight at 20%. Blend segregation can occur, and when the tablet press is running, this will affect both the content and weight uniformity. This is especially critical for high-speed presses manufacturing 1 million tablets per hour, like you would see at a Pfizer or a Merck. There are a variety of evaluation parameters for tablets, for capsules too, as specified in the USP. Hardness should be between 10 and 25 kp, kilopascals, so tablets can survive packaging, shipping, handling, and other parameters, such as friability, which is the ability of tablets to chip, disintegration testing, for example, ODTs, which I made at FDA, are orally disintegrating tablets, should dissolve in the mouth in less than 30 seconds. There's also dissolution, which is specific for each drug product in the USP, content and weight uniformity, and stability evaluation under different conditions, both ambient and accelerated. There are several main types of tablet defects. They are capping, where the top of the tablet is sheared off; lamination, where areas inside the tablet become weaker and the tablet loses its hardness. Both are believed to be caused by air entrapment during tableting. There's also sticking and picking on the punch faces, which can be caused by overmixing the magstearate. These issues can appear when you go from an R&D press to a high-speed press, where the dwell time of the punches pressing with tablets is relatively shorter. There are a variety of capsule sizes for both humans and animals. Yes, there are large horse pill sizes. You will be surprised that you cannot fit every active you want into a capsule or tablet once you calculate the amount of powder required based on the active's potency. Capsule fill is determined by the blend's powder density, and there can be a fill range difference between 200 to 300 milligrams depending upon the powder density. A strategy is, if you can't fit all of your active into one dose, is to split it into 2 or 3 doses of the tablet or capsule. In conclusion, you should start slowly on edibles until you know how your body reacts. For THC especially, take 5 milligrams or less. It can take 30 minutes to up to 2 hours to feel any of the effects. Microdosing is a hot trend. Basically, it's health benefits without the psychoactive buzz. Effects will vary by patient, and it depends upon what type of condition you're trying to treat. You do have a choice of what ingredients you want to use, whether you use the whole plant extract, full spectrum, or you use CBD isolates or broad spectrum is up to you. The trend is to add characteristic terpenes back into food products for a niche marketing strategy, just like the Mood 33. An issue that I faced in 2018 with contract manufacturers was that they were not willing to work with CBD due to its legal status at the time. Those have largely disappeared because everybody wants a piece of the action. The regulations and legal status of cannabis and banking are continuing to evolve around the world. I'm sure that all of the big food and pharma companies are looking into cannabis as a line extension or a new product. The trend of seeing cannabis products everywhere seems like it will continue far into the future. Even Carl's Jr. came out with a cannabis burger on 420 2 years ago. I've published 68 articles on a wide range of food, nutraceutical, regulatory, pharmaceutical, and cannabis topics in the USA and Europe. Honest Pharmaceuticals, or Honest Marijuana in Colorado, was the company of the CEO who called me out of the blue in October 2018 and got me started consulting in the cannabis industry, and I'll be forever grateful. I developed cannabis gummies, effervescent tablets, Coolmint ODTs, which are orally disintegrating tablets for him. I've worked with Division Zero Labs, Steve Rowley, his number is up there, to manufacture spray-dried CBD powder. I've been invited to speak or teach at several conferences, and Groovy Waves is the Maryland company I've been working with since 2019, and I've developed a range of cannabis-containing food and cosmetic products, and soon we'll be able to start extractions as well, which is exciting. I've consulted for companies in several countries and have developed or scaled up a wide range of products over the course of my 30-year career. At Groovy Waves, I set up a quality system for GMP to include batch records, raw material, and finished product specs, specifications, and wrote over 50 SOPs on all policies and procedures. I also wrote over 40 SOPs for MMCC, which is the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission, for the pre-audit of our facility, and I also got my MMCC medical marijuana cannabis card. Hooray! I'm a scientific expert witness, and I helped win my first nutraceutical case in New Jersey court, and I've worked on 4 more cases. This side is self-explanatory and good to know it's true. Cannabis is a wonderful plant and is very safe to use, once you know how well you tolerate it, of course. The cannabis industry has changed my career and life forever, and for the better, and I'm so very grateful. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed my seminar, subscribe to my channel for future updates and tell all your friends.